Hello and welcome. My name is Redboot, and this is a playthrough of Pendragon, The Fall of Rome in Britain, designed by Marc Gouyon-Rety, from the Coin series of GMT Games, which was originally designed by Volko Ruhnke. And I think this is probably going to be our last video. I'm not sure about that. It kind of depends, but we're on our 22nd card, and I believe that the cards 22 through 26 will have one of the epoch cards in them, and that'll be the end of our game for this barbarian conspiracy scenario. And so let's get going. I alluded to a fairly significant mistake that I made right at the last video on the subtitles, and I want to explain that right now. And the error extends from these two cards. With the Niall Nagalak card, I took the event by the Scotti, and then I moved to the Saxons, who were up next, and I decided to pass because the Migrants card is a shield event card. But and then the Kiwitates, who were also up because of the odd sequence of play we had, also passed because they would be able to preempt the Saxons on their next card and actually pick up the event. It doesn't work that way. So what the bot does is it looks at not only whether you have a shield event for the Saxons, but whether you're first or second in the order. Presumably, so that this little gamesmanship that I did doesn't actually happen. And of course, the Saxons are not first or second in the order; they're fourth in the order. So they actually would not have passed. I'm going to put the Niall Nagalak card back up where it belongs. And therefore, on the Niall Nagalak card, if I could ever pronounce it correctly, they would have taken an action. And the action that they would have taken, not surprisingly, was a raid. So I'm going to go ahead and do a raid now for the Saxons to finish up basically the last video, if you will, and then we'll move on to the Migrants card. Now, I've already determined where the Saxons are going to raid, and I've determined how large those raids are going to be, and the fact of the matter is the Saxons got extremely lucky with their die rolls when it came to the size of the raids, and I did two 2-die-4 raids and one 3-die-4 raid. So I rolled 7 die. All of them were 4s, which is pretty amazing. So they are max attacks in these 3 regions. Corioltawi, where we have a 6 raider attack. In Iceni, where we have a 10 raider attack. And in Trinowantes, where we have another 6 raider attack. These are going to be with Ravage, since the Britain control marker is still 1, 2, 3, 4 above the Britain goal marker for control. It's at 31, and the goal marker is at 27, so it's better than 2 less than 27, i.e. it's better than 25. So this is going to be a Ravage command. So let's go ahead and resolve these one at a time from north to south. So we're in Corioltawi. We bring 6 raiders in, and they will take the 1 plunder that is left. And then they will attempt to ravage the countryside. So in order to determine if the countryside ravage is successful, we roll a 1-die-6, and if it is a 4-6, which it is not, it is successful. So they did not successfully ravage. And now the Dukes, going first, may opt to force battle. And this should be interesting. Only with the raiders, not with the warband that's there, but part of the Ravage command is that the Dux and then the Civitate and then the Scotti, if any, which there aren't, may force battle without any possibility of evasion or withdrawal. So the Dux will in fact come out of their forts, and because there's no evade, there will be a general engagement, and 4 of the 6 will be taken away in the attack, because we do 2 damage, and 2 times a half is 4. That didn't make any sense, but 2 doing damage on half units is killing off 4 units. And then the Civitates will also do this. And then, of course, unusually, we don't eliminate the entire battle, so the entire force. So before anything, we get a harass against the Dux, and the Dux will therefore lose 1 cavalry. And the plunder remains intact, because we didn't destroy enough for the plunder. So the Civitates also have an option to battle, but they won't, because they're only going to destroy 1 unit, and that's not really going to be enough. And in fact, in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have done that with the Dux, because we can't... Well, maybe I should have. It'll winnow them down for potentially another attack later on. So anyway, we've done it, and we've initiated the battle. We're not going to initiate battle with the Civitates. So the raid is done in Corioltawi with the Ravage, and we move down to Trinowantes. So Trinowantes is a somewhat similar situation. We've got 6 raiders there, and they're going to take 1 plunder, because that's all that's left. And then we roll for Ravage again. 4 to 6 is what we're looking for, or they're looking for, and they rolled a 3. So there's no successful Ravage in Trinowantes. And the question is whether we want to initiate battle. And we do, because there are 3 Dux Federati waiting to kill off their brethren Saxons, and they're going to do that in the melee phase of battle without giving the Saxons a possibility of retaliation. So all of those Saxons are going to go back, or rather be eliminated, and go back into the available forces box, and the plunder that they took with them is gone. Finally, we'll move up to Iceni, where 10 Saxons attacked, and we'll take 2 plunder, so that's 4 plunder total that the Saxons have taken, which we will record in a few moments. And the Dux and the Civitates will not offer battle. There are just too many raiders to contend with, and they'll let them stand. So the only question at this point is whether there's going to be a Ravage in the countryside. So again, 4 to 6. This time they roll a 5, so there is a Ravage in the countryside. And that means that the British population is reduced by 1, from 2 down to 1. And therefore, for our bookkeeping up at this end of the board, Britain Control will go down by 1. Britain Prosperity will go down by 4 to 27. And Prosperity plus Prestige will go down by 4 to 31. Notice, by the way, that 30, I believe, is the threshold for fragmentation. And I've been talking about the Dux and the Scotti kind of fighting it out from a score standpoint. Right now, the Dux's score would be -29. The Scotti's score would be 34 minus 6, which would be -28. So the Scotti would win right now. It's kind of back and forth. We'll need to build some prestige up in the next couple of cards, but I'm not exactly sure what happens. I haven't figured it out yet. if and when fragmentation occurs. I think that throws everything off from a score standpoint, and we're very close to fragmentation possibly occurring on the next Epoch card. So this is going to be a very interesting finish. It's neck and neck right now, but for all I know, it could be a complete blowout when we get to that point. So that is it for the Saxon raid. They have 10 raiders in Iceni right now, so that's sort of an interesting, makes for interesting possibilities in terms of a possible return command later in this set. So with that in mind, we will now honestly move to the next card. Before we do that, we'll move the Saxons down to ineligible. So the Dukes and the Civitates are the eligible factions for the next card. And the next card is the Migrants card. Civitates up first. And it says we can drop a population -1 in one region with no Britain control to increase population by +1 in the region in a region without Britain control. So basically we get to take an additional control. We're not allowed to use a new refugees marker. That's a pretty good card. You basically get a Britain control, but it doesn't really help the eliminate Scotti very well. So let me give this a think and see what we want to do. And I think I am going to go ahead and take a population shift. So I'm going to reduce the population in in Cantalawani. I'm going to reduce that to 2. And I'm going to go up here to Parisi. And I'm going to restore that population up there. Whoop. And since we increased population in the Britain control area, Britain control will go up by 1 from 30 to 31. And the corresponding score of the Civitates will go up to 4 above its goal. So the Civitates have taken the event, which means that the Dukes can take an event plus feat, because they are next on the Migrants card and also are eligible. And I think the thing to do there will be to do a intercept in Corioltawi, where we could hope to pick off those 2 raiders. It'll be a resourceless intercept because we're not moving into the area, but they do have an opportunity to evade, which they will do on a 4 to 6 because they are in the fens. So let's try to roll low here. And we get a 2. So they fail to evade and therefore are eliminated along with their plunder. There are no other opportunities to intercept. The only other units, Saxon units, that are on the board are in Iceni, which is not controlled by us. We also have in Dobuni 2 Scotti raiders, but again, that region is not controlled by us, and so there's no opportunity to intercept into those areas. But the good news is, although we didn't pick up any plunder, we did pick up prestige. So prestige will move up to 32. A little further away from that all-important 30 level, and Dukes prestige will move up to 5. I'll do that off camera. So now we are done with the Migrants card. So the Migrants card, the Classis Britannica card, will be next. And let's see if this is the Epoch card. It is not. It is the Gratia card. So we will play Classis Britannica next. And before we do that, we'll move the Dukes and the Civitates down to ineligible and move the Scotti and the Saxons up to eligible. So the Classis Britannica card, in this card, the the Saxons go first, and they are going to take the event. It is a shield event, and I don't have enough critical mass of units to take the return command at this point. This is also a very powerful card. It's probably too little too late at this point, but what this card says is that you set all seas to no patrols. So basically all the patrols leave, and any subtraction that would then occur in Oceanus Germanicus and Oceanus Britannicus would not occur anymore until this card is somehow changed. So let's go ahead and play the card. First of all, the Saxons will take the event, so the Scotti will take a command plus feat. Down here in the Oceanus Germanicus, we'll flip this over to no control, and in the Oceanus Britannicus, we will do the same thing. And that is the Saxon turn for the Classis Britannica card. So we now move on to the Scotti. And not entirely surprisingly, the Scotti are going to do a raid because they have no units on board right now to really do much else with. And by the way, one thing that I did not do when the Saxons raided was I didn't apply the renown cost to them. They did 1 3-die-4 raid and 2 2-die-4 raid, so they had to take down 4 renown. So they have moved from 12 to 8, and we've gotten that little bookkeeping thing squared away. I've also determined where the Scotti are going to raid, and that is going to be in Nial Nagalok, in Decangli, in Slurace, and finally down here in Dumnonii. And all of those will be 2-die, 2 of those will be 2-die-4, and 2 of those will be 2-die-1. So it's going to cost a total of 6 renown. And this is one of those situations where the bot doesn't really serve itself well because they really need that renown probably to score well in the game with the Epoch card coming up. But I'm going to obey the bots, and so this moves from 6 down to 0. And let's go ahead and roll for these raids. So in Nial Nagalok, I rolled a 4, and we'll move 4 raiders into Nial Nagalok. And I'm going to do these off camera. In Decangli, I rolled an 8. So we're going to put 8 raiders into Decangli. That's kind of overkill, but it'd be sort of interesting to see if they can take the fort there. Might have an impact on the game in terms of the WL situation with the Scotti. In Slurace, this is a 1d4 raid. Let me get a shot of the results of the Decangli raid there. In Slurace, we rolled a 3. So we're going to put 3 raiders in Slurace. And in Dumnonii, we roll a 2. So we put 2 raiders in Dumnonii. So starting from Dumnonii in the south, we'll put in 1 plunder, which is all that's left, and there will be no battle. This is actually going to be with a ransom command, so we will roll for ransom. And the ransom is a 1, which means that it's unsuccessful. So we are in fact done in Dumnonii with 1 plunder taken. In Slurace, we will take the 1 plunder off the board, and we'll roll for ransom. And the roll is a 2, once again unsuccessful. So the only question outstanding right now in Slurace is whether or not there will be a battle for the town of Isca Celerum, and there obviously won't be because there's only 3 raiders there. Now, before I deal with a larger situation in Decangli, I just want to point out that Neo-Magaloch is basically a region where you build up Scotti forces for a future raid. So the first time you put forces there, you just put the forces there. The next time there's a Scotti raid, and there may be no next time in this case, we'll see. But the next time there's a Scotti raid, those forces are then added to the raid. So that's what the Neo-Magaloch space does when that card is in effect. So those will just stay there for now. So with that, we'll move to Decangli, where the 1 plunder will come off the board. 3 plunder total. And the question is, will there be a battle? There are 8 Scotti raiders. So having looked at this, there will not be a battle in Decangli. The fort has an escalate value of 1, which means that the fort will do 6 damage against the Scotti raiders, and there will not be enough, only 2 left, in order to do any damage, and that won't be enough to take the fort. So the Scotti will just stay put there in hopes of a favorable settlement command later in the game. And since we took 3 plunder from with the Scotti, the prosperity plus prestige will go down to 29, and total prosperity will go down from 27 to 24, beneath the magic ratio of 30. So we may end up in fragmentation, which would throw off all my calculations on victory, but we'll sort of see what happens here. So with that Scotti raid, the Classis Britannica card is used, and we move to the Gratia card. So the Gratia card comes down to the discard active card, and the Tears of Opponent Epoch card is next. So we are now at the end game. We will shift these 2 cards. We're not going to end up doing the Gratia card at all. We're on the Epoch card, so we go directly into the Epoch phase and determining victory. Well, I sort of warned against this. It looks like we are going to fragmentation, and I'm going to have to make some adjustments here. So, whereas I think the Dux Civitates group were going to win, that is to say, we were going to win over the Barbarians, largely because the Scotti kind of wasted their... well, actually, I don't think it would have really mattered that much, but we have 60, or 29 minus 60, which is negative 31 points. Scotti have 0 minus 34, which is negative 34 points. But that is under autonomy. And I think we're going to be shifting to fragmentation. So the first thing we do in trying to settle this is to do the Annona phase and to settle up the Federate and Parisi, Durotriges, and Trinoantes, and I'm just going to pay them all off. The resources are kind of immaterial at this phase, and I don't want to take the chance of them doing any plundering and sort of screwing up the prosperity situation. So there are 9 Federati on the board. Resources is at 10, so we're going to move resources down to 1 and simply pay them off. I might not ordinarily have done that if the game were continuing, but given that it's not, I think that's probably the safest thing. Now, the next thing that happens is the Imperium phase, and what the rules say is that if Britain control is less than 20, which it's not, it's at 31, or prosperity plus prestige is at 30 or less, which it is, it's at 29, we set the Imperium track to fragmentation. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because if we're at fragmentation, we shift to fragmentation, and if that caused a shift from Roman rule or autonomy, we divide prestige and wealth by 2, rounding up. So Dux prestige therefore moves to 3, down from 5, And Prosperity plus Prestige will therefore move from 29 down to 27. So there are no immediate winners, so the question is who wins in the tally? And sitting here right now, I have absolutely no idea. I'm going to put a shot up of the rules. And the key here is that it says, if we're at fragmentation, we take Dux control plus Prestige minus 17. So we have to determine Dux control. So we'll kind of move around the board here. We have to adjust Britain and Dux control in each of the regions where they are right now. So in Regni, there is Dux control because there are 3 pieces versus 2. And I'm actually going to do this off camera rather than going through each one and then let you know what the tally is. Okay, so having done the math, and I had a couple of areas where there was equal control and therefore they became uncontrolled. So the Dux have a control of 13, and the Britons, or the Civitates, have control of 12. And there were several that came off the board because they're now uncontrolled regions because of the equality of the Dux and the Civitates. So what that means for our victory conditions is that we have at fragmentation, we have Dux control, which is 13, plus Prestige, which is 3. That's 16. Minus 17 is -1. So the Dux score, -1. Okay. The Civitates at fragmentation, you can see that at the next down, are is at Britain control minus 16 at fragmentation. Britain control is Britain control is 12, so minus 16 is -4. That's easy enough. Now the Saxons and the Scotti are a little bit different because they're governed by the scenario. And what the scenario rules say in the Barbarian Conspiracy, and I'll put a shot of it up here, is that the final phase, victory phase margin for the Scotti is their renown, which is 0, minus 34, plus 5 for each Scotti settlement on the map. Remember, they had a Scotti settlement up on the map for the Dalriada card, so they are at -29, which is kind of an odd imbalance. And the Saxons move up a little bit. They have the higher of Saxon renown, which is 8 minus 39. So that's -31, plus 5 per settlement. There is a settlement on the board. So that's the higher of -27. Or, let's see, Saxon control minus 3. The Saxons control Contiaki, so they have 2 population there. 2 minus 3 is -1. Now, I'm honestly not sure in this instance what the rule is. I looked this up. At fragmentation, I'm obliged to take the lower of the 2 scores. So I would actually adopt for the rest of the game the Civitates at -4. And I believe that the other player, the bots, have to choose between -27 and -1. And I think they choose the lower of the 2. So I don't really see there seems to be a big incongruity here. The Scotti are at -27, and so I think that we've won. But I have to be honest, I'm a little bit puzzled because we have this situation where everybody has a very similar score. -1, -4, and the Saxons have -1, and then the Scotti have this plummeting score of -27. So maybe you can tell me who won in the comments, and I'll ask Mark in the Board Game Geek forum how this works, and that's that. But at any rate, win or lose, this was the game. It was a lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed it. Not sure if I played optimally at all times. Certainly messed up a few rules, but I think this. I can't decide whether this is my favorite of the coin games. I've played 4 of them to date: Fire in the Sky, Liberty or Death, Falling Sky, Fire in the Lake, Falling Sky, and this one, Pendragon. And Falling Sky has been my favorite, and I still think to some degree is the most elegant, but I really like this one a lot, and it's a close second, if not in first, and I'm looking forward to sort of cajoling some of the people in my game group who aren't really into coin games, but I think would enjoy them if they tried them. I might try to get them to play this one at some point in the near future, or at least a couple of them to play this one at some point in the near future and give it another go. So I definitely enjoyed this. Love doing these playthroughs. Hope you enjoyed it too. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for your support. If you like the video, press like. That would be great. If you don't like the video, press unlike if you want, and subscribe if you want to see more of this. Haven't decided yet what the next one on the hit parade is going to be. I've got a couple of ideas in mind, and we'll kind of see as things progress. I'm going to be on vacation over the course of the next week or so, and so we'll decide when I get back. So have a great day, everybody, and go blue.